No, there's an employee brand, definitely. We used to talk about that as well. And I think, again, in this course, we used to have you write down what is your employee brand, like, and then we would create a communication plan like you do for product that's deliberate about, okay, if you were if you want to communicate to the outside world and you want to do speeches, what are the three topic areas you should talk about that support that, and constantly hammering those. Or if you're going to write blog posts, or if you're going to do op-eds, like, and I definitely think that managing that, and look, we I mean, most CEOs have stylists that literally manage, they're managed. These people are managed. And that's the thing that nobody will tell you, is that when you
Yeah,
get
I was sitting with a CMO last night who was just talking about how he's got a stylist now, and it kind of cracks him up. It's an old friend of mine. So, yeah, from the company, mind you, from the
I mean,
company.
right. No,
Yeah.
so exactly. People who know Caroline Everson, I love Caroline Everson, but she wore blue all the time. That was when she was at Facebook, that was her, so I mean,
Yeah.
people forget that, but when you think about CEOs, and this is the thing that when you're very junior, you're never told and you don't understand, and it's hard to learn. That is that, again, it is so, at any given time, there's only 100 CEOs at Fortune 100. 100 people, man. Out of 7 billion people on earth, only 100 at any given time. That is, it's like getting,
Mind-boggling. Yeah.
right. It's like getting hit by lightning, guys. So, you
Yeah.
know, so my point is that these guys are very manicured. I watched us take. This is what kind of opened my eyes up to a lot of this. Is early days when I was at Ruder Finn. I watched us take a senior director at one of the large pharmaceutical companies from senior director to CEO, basically managing his internal and external communications. And the power of that brand creation is huge. Now, having said that, you have to be able to execute. You have to be able to get the stuff over the finish line and get stuff done. But execution alone is not enough, man. And so that's kind of the piece, the soft skill piece that we try to teach people, or that I try to work with people on. And I think that, you asked, how do we talk very tactically? And I think that those are some of the, the real simple tactics, which are really being cognizant. It's basic stuff like, okay, when I was very young in my career, I focused on progression, right? So there's two ways to look at it. If you love the organization, then you're going to stay there as long as you can, and that's where you see your world. And we can talk about how I kind of view, you know, tours of duty in organizations. But you as an individual, if you love the organization, you're going to want to stay there, a long time. So then you probably fight less on title and more on cash. But if you think that you're going to move organizations, then you fight on title. It's usually much easier to get title than it is to get cash. But the thing is the next move you make with a higher title, you're going to get a windfall on cash, right? And so
Yeah. Yeah. The pre-investment. Yeah.
there's this balancing act. But then when I was junior, I thought to myself, every 6 months, I have to be progressing my career, either title or money, and I just focus on that. If my 8 months, okay, I need to just go into my boss's office and say, here's what I want. So, and then when you get a little further in career, then it's usually like a year and a half, 18 months. But those are very tactical. Like, are you progressing your career along that career path that you've charted for yourself? And what are the timelines and stop gates that you have to hit in order to feel like you're making the accurate progression that you need?
So we've covered a lot around kind of how you've looked at your own personal development. I want to ask one more question in this area, and then move on to some other things I'm thinking about. It's about as a multi-time C-suite exec, you've obviously had many people work for you over the years. When you think about coaching and developing other people, is there like a mark where you're like, this, is everyone worthy of your coaching time, or is there a time when you say, look, I can't invest in this person because of X? You know what I mean?
Everybody's worthy. First of all, I read
Yeah.
a book in a Harvard Business Review. As I look at Harvard Business Review, I read I got my first Harvard Business Review in 1999. I was interviewing at Ruder Finn, actually, and it was on the desk of Michael Schubert, who's the creative director, and I started reading, and I ended up stealing it. But I never told Michael that. But Michael, yes, I stole your HBR, and in that, and I have every single hard copy since then. And that became my business school education. In that, there was an article that said the mark of a great number one is where their number two goes to lead. And that has always stuck with me, which is your singular job as a leader is to make the people who work for you better than you. That's your singular job. And I believe that applies to everybody who works for you. But the key,
Mhm.
in order to be able to manage your time around development and everybody get the most out of your knowledge is there are a few traits that most people fall into, right? And so there's vision, executioners, right? So what do they have to do? There's people who command and control, there's other who influence. There's people who are individual contributors and those that understand span of control. And so depending on what each person wants to do with their career, you have to help them kind of through those major challenges. And once and then you have to choose what are the things I'm going to focus on today. So, you know, a lot of great talent is individual contributors. And what they don't realize is that you can't control everything. In fact, you'll never, as a CEO, if that's your ambition, you're running a company of 110,000 people, most of the decisions you're not making, right? So you have to be able to make 3 bold enough decisions, sharp as you can, that can push through an organization or push through a team. And you know it's like a game of telephone. By the time it reaches the end, it's not going to be the exact message that you sent, but as long as it has the characteristics of what you tried to send, that's the most important. That's why it's super important to sharpen them as much as you can. And the other thing to realize is that you can't give people the play-by-play roadmap or else they never grow. So what you have to do is, it's like if you're a general, you have to say, take the hill. I'm not going to tell you how to take the hill. You call me and you need an airstrike, I'm happy to do that, but you need to figure out how to take the hill on your own in order for you to grow. And everybody's going to take the hill differently. The only thing that matters is, did we take the hill, right? And then you can have some critique post that about, I would have done it this way, that way. But the most important is to be able to set it and forget it and then come back to it. And that's so you begin to understand, and influence is hard. A lot of people struggle, especially in global organizations or in general, with influence. And that's a unique skill set. When the reality is the president of the United States, all he does is influence, right? So that's a unique skill set to have to learn. And then some people are not good at the executional component. So how do you help them focus on actually getting things over the finish line? And a lot of those basic things for execution is where I start with people is deadline setting. So tie your execution to an immovable object. So like we would always focus on events like South by Southwest. We had to execute because South by wasn't moving. So we had to be prepared come hell or high water in order to deliver against that. So those are kind of some of the tips and tricks that I've learned over time.